Anybody that was just watching the last feed, something happened and I lost my signal. So I'm going to go ahead and start over, essentially. What we're going to do today is going to be our Yellow Chevron Combination number 5. Our Yellow Chevron Combination number 5 looks like this. It's an outward figure 8 strike, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1, and you can bounce it up and put it right back over that shoulder. So that's just going to be able to repeat the combination. So we're going to work that entire combination and all of the techniques for that combination. I'm going to start off with the simplest techniques in that combination and move to more difficult ones, and then we're going to work it all together. So starting off, again, we're going to just start with the chuck in one hand. We're going to drop it down, and we're going to raise it back up all the way over our shoulder. And now I say over the shoulder, but we're actually not going to go over the shoulder. It's actually going to go right to the side of my shoulder. My other hand is going to go right on my tricep, and I'm going to catch it. See how it's on the side of my shoulder, though? Not over. If I go over my shoulder, I'm going to end up hitting my lat on my back, and I'm not going to be able to catch it. So again, this is called the simple up. You just have the chuck hanging here, and lift it up right next to your shoulder, and catch. Other hands from the front, and catch. So make sure you're doing this along with me. Make sure we don't add any sort of an angle to it where the chuck is pointed outwards. We want it to point straight back as we raise it up. I like to use a reference point and touch the chuck that I'm holding to my shoulder as I do this. Just like this each time. That way I can feel it and I know it's in the exact same spot. I want to know where it is each time. Now, when you're practicing this, you have different options of grips. So maybe you want to start in a longer grip and you want to catch it in a longer grip. Maybe you want to start in a middle grip and you want to catch it in a middle grip, or a middle grip and change it to a high grip, or a middle grip and change it to a long grip. Just varies where you're going to be catching at. So you can practice different types of catching, practicing it from one side to the next. So again, a few more. This is just our simple up. Again, we're starting with the easiest techniques. We're going to go to the harder ones. Now, if you haven't already, let's go ahead and put the chuck in our other hand and do the exact same thing. So let's do 10 of them. Let's count them out. 1, 2, 3. Other hand comes back to the center. 4. That way you have to practice moving it to the correct spot. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so that was, again, our simple up. So the next one we're going to do is our front switch. Our front switch is very similar to our simple up. So we start over our shoulder, just like this. We're just going to drop with the top hand, and we're going to raise up and basically do a simple up with the other hand, effectively switching hands. Now the same things are going to apply. I like to touch this part right here so that it's very consistent. So now when I switch to the other side, I do the exact same thing. Now I have seen some people where as they go and raise this up, they point the chuck that they're holding way out to the side, which causes this swing around instead of up, making it more difficult to be able to catch it because the chuck isn't going to go in that same place like I wanted it to. So I need to make sure that it's more of an upward angle so it goes right where I'm expecting it to. So now we're going to practice our front switch a few times. So we're here, drop it down, raise it up. Drop it down, raise it up. Try to make it nice and smooth. Try not to have any choppiness in it. As you drop it down, the other one starts to go and raise it up. You want to keep tension on the string the entire time, or the chain, whatever you have, the entire time. You don't want it to have this moment of right here where it's not tense anymore. So I'm starting to pull it right as I'm releasing it. That way it stays tense the whole time instead of release it and then here and then it kind of jingles around a little bit. So that's not something we want happening. We want to keep that tension on it the whole time as we're able to switch. So now go ahead and try to just switch as fluidly as possible. Again, if you've trained with me already, then you probably already know this, and this is kind of just a review for you. So we're not going to spend too much time. If you haven't really trained this yet, then I recommend spending more time practicing being able to actually catch it each time. If you mess up, oh, I didn't catch it, just drop it down and simple up. And it's just fine like that, and that's fine. You want to be able to just flow from one right to the next with relative ease. And now another thing that I do when I'm going for these is I'll actually relax my hand. So instead of keeping this tight grip whenever I'm doing it, I want it to relax. Now I'm still holding here, like, you know, okay, but I relax my grip some instead of keeping it real tight, and that changes this, which makes it a lot easier for me to catch it whenever I'm doing this. So just think about that. You don't want to have this tight death grip the whole time. It's not going to work out too well for you. All right, so that was our front switch. All right, so kind of went for the easier ones. Now we're going to do one that's a little bit harder. We're going to do our outward figure 8 strike. Now, if you haven't done any outward figure 8s before, this one might be kind of hard. So I'm going to show you the outward figure 8, and then we're going to move to the outward figure 8 strike. So to begin the outward figure 8, we're just going to start with the chuck over our shoulder. We're going to drop it down to the inside and the outside. Now, this is one thing that I see most people doing when they first start, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it's not what we do for our style. And what it is I'm rolling my wrist, so I'm rotating my wrist. Our style, we're going to do this. So you can see how the pivot point is at the end of the chuck that I'm holding, as opposed to the pivot point being in my wrist. So it should cause this one that I'm holding to stay relatively straight and it to spin here. If I'm pivoting with my wrist, then the whole chuck stays relatively straight as I do it here versus here. Again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's just not what we do in our style. So I want you to try this. If you mess up, just drop it down, raise it back up, go to the inside first, then the outside. Inside, outside. Little movements. The orientation of the chuck that I'm holding doesn't change very much. I definitely don't want it to point towards my face and risk hitting myself in the face. So I want to hold it out there, and you can practice with some speed if you'd like until you get it. So that's going to be our outward figure 8. We're going to do an outward figure 8 strike. The outward figure 8 strike is going to have 2 motions, and then it's going to go and catch underneath. So let me demonstrate what it looks like real fast. Again. And it's going to catch underneath. When I catch, I want to try to catch with this 90-degree angle in the chucks. So now, when we're doing this, I'm going to throw it. Again, it goes to the inside first, then it goes to the outside, and now from this outside point, I'm going to turn my arm, point the chuck in towards my armpit. Again, inside, outside, and then I roll it. So I'm relatively straight on the first 2, and then I roll my wrist, just like this, as I'm going to go and catch it. One more time. Inside, outside, roll, and catch underneath. So this one always is going to end underneath the armpit. It starts above, inside, outside, catch. Practice along with me. Inside, outside, catch. Inside, outside, catch. Inside, outside, catch. If you're still having trouble with it and you just need to practice your outward figure 8s, that's fine. Practice that, and then randomly try to catch it. Now, the catch is going to happen after you do your outside circle. So remember, if we stick our hands in front of us like this, the space on the inside of our arms is called the inside. So even if I drop one here, this space here is the inside, this space here is the outside. Now when I do my outward figure 8, I go to the inside, then the outside, and then it circles around. So now if I'm just doing an outward figure 8, after I do the outside circle is when I'm able to spin it around to catch it underneath. So I want you to keep that in mind whenever you're doing this, that you're going to catch it after. No matter how many actual circles you do, it's always going to catch after the outside circle. All right, so we're going to switch hands, and we're going to do the same thing. Practice your outward figure 8s if you need to. If you already kind of have that down, do your outward figure 8 strike. Again, outward figure 8 strikes. Inside, outside, catch underneath. Raise it up. Inside, outside, catch underneath. Inside, outside, catch underneath. Inside, outside, underneath. Now the goal is to try to catch it with this 90-degree angle in the string. That's just purely for looks. It doesn't actually matter, but it looks nice. So I want you trying to do that because, you know, if you're going to do this, you might as well look nice while doing it, right? If you're going to go compete, you definitely want to look nice. One of the common things that I'll see is people will go here, and they do this, where this chuck is pointed here. Try to do it here. Inside, outside, catch. A few more on your left side, and then we're going to move on to the next technique. So our next technique is going to be our front strike. So our front strike looks like this. From the side. All right, so let me break down our front strike. One hand, non-striking hand is going to be here in the center. It's going to lift up and go across, just like this, so that I'm exposing my side so I'm able to strike it and bounce it back underneath. I'm not trying to do this over my arm. While it is possible, it's not something that we really want to do. So now the hand technique is going to be, I'm pressing forward, and as I press forward, I'm rotating palm up. So what that's going to allow me to do, it's going to allow me to turn my wrist and cast the chuck out, bounce it off my body, and catch it again. So again, I'm here, I caught it underneath. I'm going to press straight forward. As I rotate my hand, palm goes up. I'm going to flick with the wrist, where you can think of it like you're fishing, you're casting out. So I'm here, I flick the wrist, and I bring it all the way through. Flick the wrist, and now at this point, you're going to bounce it off your body. You want to make contact with this part of the chuck, not the one that you're holding, this part of the chuck right on your side so that it wraps around you. If I make contact with this chuck that I'm holding, I can just smack myself because it's not wrapping. It's kind of wrapping, and then it just makes contact. I want it to make contact here and then just wrap around me so it's no sharp edge directly into me. From here, press forward, start to twist, flick it, and now as you're bringing it back, you keep the chuck pointed towards you and just bring it across, and then chicken wing it down whenever you're doing this. Strike forward and bring it back. Forward, rotate, flick, and bring back and catch. Again, we're still trying to catch with that 90-degree angle whenever we're doing this. Now you can start to add a little bit of hips into it. Throw your hips as you do the strike. So go ahead and practice this a few times. Try to get fluid with it. One of the things that's very common, the mistake that people make, is they shoot this out first. They allow the chuck, let me show from this way. They shoot this out, they allow the chuck to go here and kind of hit this extension, and it'll make this popping sound, or sometimes these collide into it, and then it whips around, and it looks something kind of like that, where if you were able to see, it's kind of hard because obviously I move fast and I have to do it fast. It kind of loses control of it. So I want to keep the tension on my chuck the entire time. I don't want it to go forward here, where you can see there's clearly no tension on that. I want to keep the tension on it as it wraps around that entire time. That's what's going to allow me to actually strike something and be able to control it. So if I was to walk up here and strike, I'm actually able to control afterwards because I kept tension on it the whole time. If it's loose, I can get hit with that ricochet. So that's something that you need to be aware of. So let's go ahead and let's switch sides and do the same thing if you have not already. Press forward, turn, palm starts going up. This elbow raises as I go across, strike, catch it back underneath. Forward, twist, cast out, strike, catch. You can start to add some speed and power whenever you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So that is our front strike. All right, so the next move that we're going to do is going to be our around the neck part 1. So there's multiple parts to this, but we're going to do our around the neck part 1. So with our around the neck part 1, it's going to start off with a side strike. A side strike looks like this. So I'm starting in this position here. I drop my elbow. I strike where my chuck moves completely horizontally. And just like before, I wrap it around my body. Now as I wrap it around my body and I'm going to come back with it, I'm going to keep the chuck that I'm holding pointed directly at me. So go ahead and do this now and look at what happens. So if you keep this chuck pointed at you and you just bring it from side to side and allow it to bounce off your body, this is what we're going to be doing. So I start off with the strike, I allow it to bounce, and now I'm going to catch it behind my back. So as I do this, I keep it pointed towards my body, and I bring it all the way to this side so that I can catch it. Bounce and catch. So go ahead and do this right now. Bounce and catch. Bounce and catch. You can actually release it and do the same thing on the other hand to get practice on both sides. Bring it across, bring it back and catch. Bring it across, bring it back and catch. Cross, back and catch. Cross, back and catch. All right, so now you feel a little bit more comfortable with that, hopefully. All right, I'm going to change chucks real fast. All right, so you have your strike, you bring it back across, you catch, and now from here, you're going to bring this arm that just received the chuck out horizontally, and you're going to move it horizontally and catch around the neck. Now, as we're catching around the neck, the hand that is receiving it goes on top. So whether I switch sides, the hand that receives it is going to go on top. So I just pulled it out from behind my back. Now, one of the mistakes I see people do when they do this is they bring this hand straight from here to this shoulder. If I bring this hand straight from here to this shoulder without kind of coming up first, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to end up hitting my shoulder blade as I do this. So I want to raise it up and flick it around sideways so that the movement of the chuck is moving this way instead of moving at that angle. And that's going to allow me to catch it. So at this point, what I want you to do, I want you to hold the chuck in one hand, I want you to extend your arms out, I want you to wrap it around the neck, bring it back. Wrap it around the neck, and bring it back. So I'm moving only in this horizontal plane at this time. I'm not moving up or down, just horizontally. Now, if you're a little scared at first, which is understandable because some people hit themselves with it, so you can do it slow, but as long as you're touching it here, this should be what happens. As long as it's going completely flat, you don't have to go too fast with it, and it should just wrap right around your neck, and the other hand catches. Bring it out, wrap right around the neck, and the other hand catches. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's put those things together for our around the neck part one. So we're going to start over the shoulder, side strike, bounce it back, behind the back, around the neck, and now I'm going to bounce it up. So when you're doing the technique individually, I usually show the around the neck done like this, where we catch it underneath, but for this one, I typically will actually do it this way, where I just bounce it, and it brings it right back over the shoulder instead of catching it here. You can do either one. You can catch it here and then just simple up to get it back over the shoulder. That's going to be completely up to you. But let's go ahead and let's practice this one now. So we start here, side strike, behind the back, around the neck, and you can catch it if you want or bounce it. Raise it up, and again, around the back, around the neck, catch, up, side strike, around the back, around the neck, catch, up, strike, back, neck, catch, one more on this side, up, strike, back, neck, catch. Now let's go ahead and switch it to the other side, and let's do the same thing. So we're going to start with the side strike. Again, we're trying to move this one horizontally, so try not to angle it down like this. Try to move it horizontally, bounce it off, bring it behind the back, bring it around the neck, and you can just bounce it back up if you'd like. Side strike, behind the back. Again, after I did that, I keep the chuck pointed towards me to get it behind the back. I catch it, I raise up, and I go around the neck. The hand that is receiving it goes on top. Side strike, around the back, around the neck. Bounce it up. Side strike, around the back, around the neck. Catch. Side strike, around the back, around the neck. Catch. Up. side strike, around the back, around the neck, bounce. All right, so you can do either one of those that you'd like, where you either catch it or you bounce it off and then bring it right back up. Completely up to you. I don't mind. Practice whichever one feels the most comfortable for you. I usually do tell people, though, at first I would like you to practice catching it, just because it gives you more practice catching it. Later on, you're going to be bouncing it because you're going to realize, oh, I can move way faster when I bounce it, and when you start doing double chucks, you're going to be bouncing everything because you're not really going to be catching them, because it makes much more sense when we're doing double chucks. All right, so now what we're going to do, now that we've learned all of the techniques for this combination, we're going to put the combination together. So we're going to start off 2 techniques first, and then we're going to build onto that. So we're going to start off over our shoulder. We're going to do our outward figure 8 strike. And now from here, we're going to do our front strike. Now let's raise it back up again, and let's do that again. Outward figure 8, inside, outside, circle, and catch. Front strike, and catch. Trying to get that 90 degrees. Raise it up. Inside, outside, circle, and catch. Front strike, and catch. Again. Inside, outside, catch. Front strike, catch. And let's do one more on the side. Raise it up. Outward figure 8, front strike. Now let's go ahead and let's switch sides. Let's do the same thing. Inside, outside, catch. Front strike, catch. Up, inside, outside, catch. Front strike. Up. Inside, outside, catch, front strike. Up, inside, outside, catch, front strike. One more. Inside, outside, catch, front strike, up. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we actually did 3 of the techniques, and I didn't really mention it, but that up after you did that front strike here, and you raised it up to reset, that's actually part of the combination. So you did it, and you didn't even know. All right, so after you do that simple up, the next move is going to be a front switch, and then around the neck, part 1. And you can catch it or you can bounce it and bring it right back up. At this point, we're going to end with it over that shoulder, and now we're just going to do the second part of this combination. So we're going to front switch, around the neck, part 1. End with it over the shoulder, front switch, around the neck, part 1. Front switch, around the neck, part 1. Front switch. And now what I'm doing, I like to do this. I like to do my front switch as I turn my hips. So I was facing squared with here, and now as I do that front switch, I turn my hips so I can come back with that strike with a lot of power into it. Front switch, my hips turned, strike, bring it around the neck. Front switch, strike, bring it around the neck. Now you don't have to add that power right now if you don't want to. If you're not comfortable with it, that's fine. Just practice front switch, side strike, around the neck. Again, try to make sure that when you're doing that side strike, you're moving horizontally instead of here at this angle. Horizontal as we do that side strike. Okay, now we're going to put those 2 together, and we're going to do the entire combination. So one more time, I'm going to show the entire combination, then we're going to work it. So it's an outward figure 8 strike, front strike, up, switch, and then around the neck, part 1. That's it. So now let's go ahead and let's do it together. I'm going to walk you through each one. So outward figure 8 strike, inside, outside, circle, front strike, flick it out, around, catch it again, simple up, front switch, side strike with around the neck, part 1. Raise it up, and now we're going to do the same thing. Now we're on the other side already. So now we're just going to do outward figure 8 strike, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1. And now we're on the other side. Outward figure 8 strike, front strike, up, switch, side strike, around the back, around the neck, up, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, side strike, around the back, around the neck, bounce it up, bring it on top, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1, bounce it up, outward figure 8, front strike, oh, I was about to do a front strike to around the neck, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1, bounce, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1, bounce it up, outward figure 8, front strike, up, switch, around the neck, part 1. All right, so today what we did, I'm going to quickly recap everything. We practiced all of the techniques for our Yellow Chevron combination number 5. The techniques, the combination consisted of the techniques of simple up, front switch, outward figure 8 strike, front strike, and around the neck part 1. Around the neck part 1 is also kind of a combination in its own right, which kind of breaks down to 3 different techniques, which would be the side strike, which normally would come back under, but we go to around the back and around the neck. So we put all of those together to make our combination number 5, which is, one more time, outward figure 8 strike, front strike, up, switch, side strike with around the neck, part 1. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's class, and we were just practicing for this combination. If you have any questions over anything, go ahead and put it in the comments right now, and I'll stick around for another minute or two, answer any questions that you might have. If not, then have a great day and keep swinging. Let's see what all the comments are. And sorry about losing my service at first. A bunch of hellos. Where can you get one? I'm assuming you're asking about chucks. You can buy them on the internet as long as they are allowed where you live. I create my own. I just make my own out of wooden dowels. Yes, if you actually, somewhere on our page, under probably the Nunchaku stuff, if you go look at the videos, I have a short video, it's like 5 minutes long, of how to make a pair of chucks that looks something like this. So it's made out of PVC pipes and string. It works, does all the same stuff. So you can make these, cost about, I don't know, $7 or $8 for the material to make that. Okay, more highs. Yellow boat lessons, train. There's a whole bunch of comments, you guys. Oh, we're talking a lot. Why weren't y'all training? What are you doing? You're supposed to train along with me. Questions about black belt classes. I'm not sure when they will be posted or if they will be posted on YouTube. They are on our website, though. You can see our black belt classes as soon as you sign up through the website. To the Master of Doom. Can you add time on your journal for watching this? As long as you trained along with me, then yes, you can. If you just watched it, then no, you cannot. But if you trained along with me, then yes, you should definitely log it. Okay, Bart, so you asked a question about the knot in the middle of my chucks. They don't bug me at all. Even when I'm doing like hand rolls or anything, they don't bug me at all. But I really like these because I can do this with them and take them apart. So that's one of the reasons I really like. I started making all my chucks like this, so my older ones don't have the knot in the middle, but I actually started making all these so that I'm able to travel with them. But it doesn't affect at all. I haven't noticed a single difference. Master Doom, awesome. Glad you trained along with me. All right, guys. Any other questions? Somebody asked, can you do more of these? We have a schedule right now for, I think the nunchucks is like every 2 months. I'm gonna do a nunchuck class on YouTube. But there's a schedule that we've got for certain classes where certain martial arts styles are going to be taught on YouTube each month. I think it's usually like 2 different styles per month. Maybe it's 3. I only pay attention to mine. Should probably pay attention to all of them, huh? Any other questions, you guys? All right, no problem, Bart. All right, I think that's it. I'll give you like 10 more seconds. Post any questions. Probably not. All right, guys. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for training along with me.